was to reenact basically the experiences that people in the room and also people that aren't in the room may have with dealing with money, wealth in America. And so some of the things you had happen was certain people were able to do certain things that other people on the board could not do. And basically certain things were given to a certain group of people. And when
that was hard work.
Yeah, right. Right. And,
pull yourself up by our bootstraps.
Yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But, a lot of people experience that it wasn't enough to really get ahead. And you can get a little bit. I think even at one point someone was given a home. Mm-hmm. But they still didn't have the means to take care of that home. So it was supposed to be like I don't want to say fun, but an interesting look at the game of Monopoly, but also to correlate it with real life and accrual of wealth. And so Michelle.
I do got his diaper back. I'm sorry. I made you walk over here.
How did you? Can you elaborate on how you felt about that experience, or?
It was a nice experience.
Just to kind of see it.
Yeah.
Okay. And to add to that, because I think sometimes, a lot of times, in our communities, we complain about things that go on. We don't always see it as oppression. We just think it's just things to complain about. And we don't really, for lack of better words, kind of put the science to it. So, I feel like playing, American-style Monopoly kind of says, you experience these things. These are real things. These aren't just imaginary things that just happen to you, that just come out of the air. It's like, these are things that it was intentional. It was intentional. So.
It flashes back to, I remember hearing my sister say, why can't I win? Why is it always something? Every time I tried, and it seems like I fall back down, or these roadblocks are put in, and once you get to hearing that so often, it's not coincidence, or, it's not just, when it's not just this person, and you go to a whole nother area, and it's that person or another person,
Gotcha.
It's a thing that is a reality. It starts becoming a reality. My biggest takeaway was we had the board locked up before y'all was able to play. Yeah. That's real life. You know what I'm saying? Anytime we go out and try to buy us something, it's always way higher than what somebody else previously purchased it for, or out of our reach in some kind of way. So, that was the real reality for me was, I'm coming up to play the game, and the game is already, locked up. Right.
Kenya? You don't have to share, but I just wanted to know what you thought about last month.
It was interesting, like she said. I'm sorry to be walking, but it just made me think about, like they said, real life, and also, too, your mindset. And I kind of took that home with me, because even dealing with that grandson, we actually went to court for his parental rights.
Gotcha.
So the first time, we kind of weren't prepared enough, because the mom had an attorney. Mm-hmm. And when we kind of get too emotional and overwhelmed, we just kind of shut down. So we didn't really say anything. You know what I'm saying? We were in our feelings, so we was just kind of sitting there, and it was like they was just telling us whatever, and we whatever, we just trying to get out of here.
Right.
Which she asked for supervised visits, which it was just some dumb bull. We all know that's manipulation. He doesn't need supervised. He's not a murderer.
Yeah, that does happen.
But
you just got to talk about other kids' development. So
then, in the meantime, we got ourselves together, and we did talk to the lady here that helps us through legal aid, and we were more prepared. The second time we went in, we had documents. We had paperwork. So then when the attorney came to us this time, she tried to be like, oh, yeah, and walk off. We no, wait a minute. We have one more thing. Oh, no, wait a minute. Because even before we went to court, he had been getting sick on and off. We didn't really know what was going on. And he had tubes put in his ear. Mom withheld visits. Mm-hmm. And went and picked the child up early. And then we found the documents. And it's you're not allowed to do that. And even if you did, you have to have a doctor's note. And you have to give us a 24-hour notice. They only gave us a 7-hour notice. So, we pointed that out to the attorney, or the attorney's well, I don't know why you advised her, because you advised her to be in contempt of this court order. That's what you did. So this time it was we came with a different attitude, and the attorney is just sitting there but it just made me think about that game, and when you were talking about different things that were going on, it's there's a difference in that mindset, or if you're ready, or just, knowing and choosing your battles and things like that.
And it kind of correlates too. It's regardless of if you feel it's fair or not, you still have to learn how to play it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's seemed like that's what y'all did the second go around when y'all went in there, and that's a really big deal, man. I congratulate you on that too, man, because it's very important. And I know, as being a father myself, I know how stressful that'd be. You know what I'm saying? You know, wanting to, you know, be there for your son, and especially you go in there, you're like, I'm the dad. I want to be involved. Why are we even in court for this? Like, I'm not putting my hands on him. I'm not doing nothing wrong. So it should just be what it is.
Yes.
But you know, yeah, that's that makes me feel good to hear that. That's good.
So that and the fact that court is about money. No matter what court you're talking about, the basketball court, the tennis court, there's money tied to it.
I think it's just hard though. Like for me, it was hard. Like you said, like I wanted to be in my son's life. Like for me, I grew up without a dad,
Right.
and that was what gave me the perspective of, hey, when I have a kid, I'm gonna be in my kid's life. It didn't matter if I had a son or a daughter. It did not matter. Like I wanted to be there, and what makes it hard too, and this came later on, like after some of the stuff me and the mother like kind of went through, is like realizing like certain things that we go through impacts the relationship that we will have with other people. Right. So the relationship that me and her had and the things that we went through, even though at the time we didn't know, we were going to have a kid or whatever, like those things impacted how we related with each other, which then impacted how we were going to be able to relate with our son. I think it's just interesting, again, even with the aspect of the game that you guys play. Like I didn't play, but I just hearing from a lot of it, that those are things that happen. Like it's just life. You go through life, and there are certain things that you're already going to have a disadvantage in. You know, I think one thing for me, I saw a race like that they did, and the race was like they would call people out like, oh, if you grew up in a 2-parent home, if you basically got a head start, and it showed like the big difference that we can have in life. Where hey, look, yeah, you got an advantage, and this person has a disadvantage, but then at the same time, they're still running the same race. Right. And for me, I think it brings to the perspective of, all right, if we're all running the same race, what's the point of us going against each other in a way? Like, why would I fight you to win the same race that you're going to be racing at the end of the day? We're all going to have the same end results in a way.
Right. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. That's big. So, saying all of that, today, you know, I'm asking you guys a question first. So, everybody here has heard the term reparations before, right? Okay. So when you hear that, what do you think of when you hear that term? Repayment. Okay.
You said for a loan?
For a wrong.
Oh, okay.
For a wrong, okay.
I always hear the word repair.
Anybody else?
When I hear it, I feel like it's something that's overdue, owed back.
Overdue, owed back.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Anybody else? Okay, well, in saying that, sorry, I meant to bring up this definition earlier, but I'm going to give you guys the definition of reparations. The definition is the making amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. So it's a little bit of everything you guys said. So by hearing what the actual definition is, when it comes to Black people in America, do you feel that we are due reparations?
Hard one. I know in my English class, my professor was given permission to read a student that did an essay that basically talked about that, and he brought up kind of a bunch of different good points. Like it kind of was like he felt like, oh, we were owed it, but then he kind of basically spoke on other things that people said and just kind of evaluated on what they wrote about it. And some people that he wrote about, they were saying like, oh, we don't need that, or we can't help, I guess, what happened in the past. That was those people then. That has nothing to do with us now. But like, yeah, that's a hard one to don't know, to me, like, it's kind of, I feel like you kind of go all kind of ways on that one. Like,
Okay. I'll say for me, I've kind of been on the fence either way about it. And not that we don't need it for any reason besides, like, the times I felt like we don't need it, it's only been because I feel like if we get it, there's going to be something attached to that. So that's the only time, or it'll be some kind of not awkward, but some kind of backdoor way of doing something else to us as a people. But for me, I do feel we're owed something, and I don't necessarily know what that is. I've always said, at the very least, pay for college for people, that have their ancestors have experienced, slavery and trauma and all that stuff. And it's funny because they always talk about, well, if we do that, how do we know people should get it? Who do we know should get it? How do we know they had ancestors? I'm like, just go with what y'all been doing. One drop, remember? One drop, remember? So if they one drop black, then that's how they get it. And that's something y'all create. But anyway, that's kind of, like I said, I'm kind of either way. Nobody?
I feel the same way. I feel like I'm on the fence. I think my perspective on it would be as far like she was saying, as far as the past, some of that stuff has happened. And I think what keeps me kind of back away from it, where it's I don't really want it, is I have this idea look, if I gotta kind of tell you to do something, it's not from your heart.
Right.
You feel me? And so I feel like if it was hey man, I deserve this, I deserve this. If it was to happen, I feel like it wouldn't be a genuine thing.
Gotcha.
And so for me, if I wanted to see certain things for a change, to me it needs to be a genuine thing for it to happen, kind of. I wouldn't want it to be oh well. They put up enough of a fight now. We got to do what they want, and it's it doesn't matter at that point, because at the end of the day, your heart's still going to tell you, hey, that's not what I agree with. You feel me? So then, yeah, maybe in the public or however you want to look at it, it looks like, oh yes, we're trying to correct these wrongs, we're trying to do this, but then at home in their own closets when they're by themselves, that's not really what it is.
Who is William they?
For me, it would just be people. So, and I mean, in this sense, since we were talking for blacks, black people, it would be obviously other people, as in people who aren't black, white, whatever it may be,
right.
But generally just other people, not certain people.
Is it comfortable talking about reparations? Is it a comfortable thing to talk about reparations?
No, because even when she was just here,
I was getting ready. I'm about to bring the heat. I don't give a damn who said it.
Right. Which is where you come from, but at the same time you're okay. You still have that thought. See, don't mean you won't talk about it. You
right.
Have that thought though.
Because the piece is that it's an American thing, and we're all in America, and it's something that we all have to come to grips with and be able to discuss whether we agree with it or do not agree with it. So, I mean, now I'm ready. Y'all ready? Let's go and talk a little bit about it, because the game that we set up, we wanted to set up and show that even though people were already there at the beginning of the game. Matter of fact, what's crazy about how we set the game up here was that the group was here before the game.
Hey, she was like, what they doing?
Right. She was the game, they was here before the game started. We did not let them in. We bought up all the property. We left one property open. And after we got all the money, we divvied up the money, we controlled the bank, we started letting people in. Go ahead and roll. Somebody rolled something and knocked over somebody's buildings, we charged them extra money. Right? You being aggressive on our board. You can't be aggressive on our you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's our board, but you got to work hard to get where we are. You know what I'm saying? Now, because this is the next question I wanted to ask. So even in the way that we had it set up, what if I would have said that every time you made a pass go, I would have gave you $2,000? Would you still been able to catch up?
If you got to think about it, look.
Why?
I would have to say no because the way the whole game was, it was. Well, I can't really say nothing because I was in and out anyway.
Right.
Because I was running back and forth to my daughter, so
Right.
I can't really say nothing. I know every time I came back, I was still in jail, and it was hard to get out of jail. I'm like, okay, for real, this is the first time I've been in jail. Okay.
And the next week when we played, one of the brothers that was there, and we played with him like that, he just wanted to stay in jail because he said because it was easier. You know what I'm saying? Because you land on there, you don't have no money. And this is what
we know some people like that.
Oh yeah, some of us already been in those situations. Now let's go to what reparations is. Reparations is a debt. A debt don't have nothing to do with how you feel about it. You know what I'm saying? If you ever had a car payment and you was late on the car payment and they called, you know, they don't care how you feel about the debt. I'm coming to get my car. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to evict you from the house. The debt is the debt.
Because my thoughts about reparations, I always think about Haiti. France imposed that because you done kicked us off this island that you owe us reparations.
And they still paying it up to this
They're
day.
still paying.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. After
so the Haitians are paying
the France.
Yeah.
When they were invading.
When they colonized, it wasn't just invading. When they colonized, when they got kicked off, part of the deal afterwards was that Haiti had to continue. This is why Haiti is so poor. Haiti still has to pay France for what they lost when they got kicked off that territory.
This is back when Napoleon was emperor of France.
The game is rigged. The game is fixed, but we got to know how to play it. So, all right. Do you have some chalk? I want to show you.
That just blew my mind. I didn't even know that.
And we like.
It's about to get deeper.
We be so proud too, because
right.
They revolted.
They revolted and they kicked the ball. You got some chalk or something?
And they paying for it still. It should be a couple pieces around here on the.
So are also many African nations that have claimed their independence.
I don't think they keep it in the ground.
Oh, that's cool.
No, here's a blue jar.
I got enough for everybody. Okay. So, just before I pass this out, let's say that this. You sure this ain't a clean out man?
Legit.
That's because they repainted that board with something.
I'm gonna pass out the paper. I'm glad I brought enough paper for everybody.
My bad.
I thought it was some pool chalk.
Right.
They called themselves trying to repaint that. It's probably whatever they painted it with.
All right. So what we're gonna talk about today is the concept of reparations. You want one? Okay. All right. So now we don't have to read this, but I want you to look at that timeline. That timeline is the beginning of America in 1600, and you bring it all the way up to the 2000s. You see that?
Right.
Now, if I was to ask you on that line, even though it's on there, what percentage of time were you able to even compete as black people in America? On that line, what percentage of that time were you able to compete? 1900s, you think so? What was your grandfather doing, or great grandfather doing in 1902?
That's true. So you're right. So let's. I don't know. When I think about the history, I think to actually compete, and that's that can be 19.
Somebody at the door.
80.
Oh,
Huh?
1980.
So,
You sure that was a number?
It sounded like
yeah,
the
it
doorbell.
sounded like it's in the
You said 1980s? So now, when we talk about reparations not only covers the time of slavery, which was about 250 years, because actually we just had the celebration for 2019, which will be in the 400th year that some of us have been here. We was here before the game started, 1619, all the way up to about 1863, emancipation. After that, black codes came in, because you had a 7-year period, which was called Reconstruction, where we got the first senator. Because people talk about Obama being one of the first black senators, but that's not true. Back in between 1865 and 1871, we had people that was in power in the South. After that 7-year period, they came in and destroyed everything.
Yes, I watched this documentary. It was talking about a place in, was it Kentucky, but most of their the political people in that particular area were mostly black.
Right.
And they competed and they had wealth.
Right.
But somebody, I can't remember what they used to basically get all the black people out.
After Reconstruction, they pulled back the federal forces, which meant that for a period of about 7 years, the North, after they defeated the South, kept federal troops on the land to protect the former enslaved. Now, but part of the compromise after that was that they had to give the stuff back to the Southern whites because they needed the economy. Because when people talk about slavery wasn't just about the South. Slavery, the number one commodity in America around the Civil War was black people's bodies. We outdid the railroads. We outdid cotton. As a matter of fact, you know how you go out and get a loan right now? They used to do that with our bodies. I want to buy some new farm equipment or I need seeds. They would take a couple of us and they would actually put mortgages on us. So the whole economy of the United States, everything was built up on us. And a lot of people don't know this. If you look at the years between 1600, if you look between 1600 and about the 1600s and 1800s, a lot of us lived up east. And I mean like on the East Coast, like New York. A lot of us, we trace our roots down to the South, but if you go back far enough, you're going to find out that if your family been here long enough, it's a good chance that y'all was in Connecticut, y'all was in New York, y'all was in there because when they made importing slaves illegal, they started an internal slave trade. So they would go up to the northern states and buy slaves and walk them down. Now I'm saying that to say this. If you look at those highways that go south, do you know what routes you're tracing when you go back down south?
Slave routes.
Those are the routes that they used to march us from up east to down south. And I'm going to tell you what's even deeper. We always blame the South for what was going on. But think about this. Anybody seen the movie Harriet? Okay, cool. Anybody heard of Frederick Douglass? Where was he in slavery at? Maryland? Why you say now? Hold on. Think about this. Where was Harriet Tubman in slavery at? When she made her trips to go get her family. You would think Alabama, right? South Carolina, Florida. Look it up. I'm not even going to tell you where it's at. I want you to be shocked because slavery was the basis of the whole economy that grew America into an industrial complex. Now, I'm saying all that to say this. We moved from 1619 all the way up to 1863, slavery. After that, they enacted the Black Codes. And from the Black Codes, you got this thing called Jim Crow, which did not allow your ancestors to compete. As a matter of fact, it made your ancestors vulnerable to the attacks of individuals that wanted any wealth that they had accumulated. It was during the Jim Crow time that you hear about a lot of these black towns that became prosperous in any form of fashion. They would be raided and destroyed.
Because you had no rights.
And exactly. You had no rights. So that's about 100 years. Then after we came out of Jim Crow and finally got the right to vote around 1965, the real right to be able to actually do a lot of stuff. We move into the war on drugs. Then we got the school to prison pipeline that's functioning right now. So the question I ask you again, how long have you really been able to compete?
With that question, what I thought about was I don't see where we were able to compete, but what we did have was the communities where it was all black and we were happy to be black in our communities and we could be prosperous in our communities.
Oh, I'm gonna challenge that too.
But what I'm saying is it was where it wasn't competing with anything outside of, but basically in your own neighborhood you had your own doctor, your own teachers, your own set of people that you can go to. So it wasn't really competing with other doctors or other, the white people basically.
And I think what happened was white people were okay with that at first until they realized what it did. So to me, I feel like they realized, wait, we're missing out on all this money. We're missing out on, them coming to us.
Basically, and then come here, but wait a minute, you got stipulations, you are black, so only right here. Well, don't go too far over there. Oh, well, you can't come in this one, though. Right. So, still, and then you have when we talk about mindset, you still want to, because it looks glamorous or better or whatever, you still want that anyway. Even though you have to go through these things, you still want it. Not to say that they're fair, but at least you get to have it or something.
Right. So, or that mentality, because somebody says that you can't do this or this is what you shouldn't do,
then you want to do it.
This is just that human nature to do that thing that is forbidden.
Right.
Now, Black Times, yeah, we did have them, and I love them. But one of the facts is we got black areas mainly now because the federal government redlined areas wherever we were. They made black people a contagion to wealth. So in a sense, when you would try to go buy a house in a certain neighborhood, as soon as you tried to buy the house in the neighborhood, just the fact that you was able to move in that neighborhood would devalue the property within that neighborhood. So they made it almost impossible. Now, all this stuff that I'm talking about has happened not just because white people, but because our government did not extend the protections as citizens that we should have had. So when we talk about reparations, it's more than black versus white.
They try to play that game too, where it's like, then they try to make it about white people, as opposed to no, the government played a part.
The government what?
We're holding you guys accountable.
Oh yeah.
The role you guys played. This ain't about white people. It's about what y'all was doing.
Think about the taxes that they collected off of each body that was sold.
But they play that game with us, so
it's also the same reason why they have you focused on the president instead of the people that actually make the laws that make it happen anyway. Because all he can do is sign off on it anyway. He can suggest a law and he can sign off on it. He can't make any laws.
Right.
So the point I'm trying to make is that we come from a group of people who have been used to build wealth for everybody else. They use our bodies, they use our labor to build, and it has been sanctioned by a government that should have been protecting us.
Even if we go even simpler, like I heard, I can't remember where I was watching it, but it says the only thing that white man has created was the patent office, and which it was funny, but at the same time, it's like I get it why people say that, because if you think of any inventions we've had in the past that we were not considered citizens,
right?
Like if we both go down, I could go before you go at the same time. They're gonna give it to that white man, regardless if I made it and I have proof of that, because I didn't have any rights. And so, by creating the patent office, they could take our ideas and say it's theirs, and think of all the ones that people don't even know slaves have created.
And monetize.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it still happens today. I mean, we see them do it with each other. You know what I'm saying? So they definitely doing it to us.
So now, the next question that came up is, how do you tell who is supposed to get reparations and who is not? Which is a very simple question, and it's deeper than the one drop rule. Because what we're talking about is we're talking about a specific group of people who have suffered under this government for generations. And that specific group of people can trace their lineage back to the very plantation. Some of us have probably did the research and have been able to trace exactly where our families came from. So we're talking about a group of people that would be labeled American descendants of slavery. Not slaves, but slavery. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how do you know? Well, because black people been here a long time, but how long have black people been able to legally come into America? If your family has been here probably longer than 1965, if you got a great grandmama here, you know what I'm saying? It's a good chance. It's a good chance that you are supposed to be getting reparations, because not only did your family come through slavery, your family suffered Jim Crow. Your family in some form or fashion suffered redlining. Your family in some form or fashion has suffered from the war on drugs. Your family has suffered from the school to prison pipeline. You know what I'm saying? And it's like others have constantly been able to take advantage and build wealth on top of your group.
Yeah, and even with that, it's always been intentional. Because I can't remember what I was watching, but it was talking about how, during the war on drugs and all that stuff, when fathers were being taken out of their homes, they start focusing on, single moms, and basically just promoting single moms. Like, it's okay to be a single mom. This is a powerful thing. This is a strong thing. And they interviewed certain, my parents, like women that were raising kids on their own. And, one in particular was like, I don't need no man. I don't need a man to do anything or things like that. And that may be true, but your child needs that man. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and also when you categorize yourself as single, it's taking away that you're not single. You have a child that's going to need something that you may not need. You know what I'm saying? You may not feel like that man needs to be around, but he needs to be around for your child. And so to me, I think that further perpetuated black families not being together.
Mm-hmm.
Because regardless, and I'm telling this to anybody that has kids, if we could have did it right, we would have. You know what I'm saying? And we would have preferred for it to be done, two parents raising their kids. As much as we want to say, like, I'm okay by myself and I do it, we would have preferred for our child to have both parents in the home. And so we're going with that thought, a healthy home, should I say. We're going with that thought for us to always think, like, it's okay to not, come together. And I can use y'all example, like how she felt you weren't relevant to be in his life, which that shouldn't even have been a thought ever. But
another thing with that, though, goes into propaganda. Have you ever seen, like, how you can look in the magazine and you got the full family, with the mom and the dad and the kids, and they're the white family, but then you got the black mom with the kids. It's just as you see it, then it seems like it's like okay, or this is the way it's supposed to be, or so it again it goes back to the mindset. I don't know. That's just been my word all month anyway. So so it's that, saying it puts it in your mind, your imagery, this is the way it's supposed to be. Then you get the songs that come out, Miss I-N-E, all that kind of stuff. So it starts playing that role in a whole lot of things within our communities, is to put it in the media so you can make this an okay thing. Like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be anyway. Everybody's like this, So that's where that comes in at.
So now, the need for reparations. Why do American descendants of slavery need reparations? Do anybody know?
So we could get back in the game and have a better playing field.
You'll get back in the game. Can anybody else? Can anybody have a story that possibly could be connected to your not having reparations that may have affected your whole life? Because you might not know it, but it's all around you, and I could demonstrate how it's all around you.
So, and let me know if I'm not answering the question. I know for me, working in CPO, working with low income families, a lot of the low income families look like me. And is there just something innately different or wrong with us that we are in poverty? I can stop there and let you.
See, because this is the piece that I want to get across to people. Either, if you look at the numbers, like for example, I got the wealth gap. Y'all heard about the wealth gap, right? Then they got what they call the racial wealth gap. Now, on both points, when you put everybody together, it's bad. When you put it by race, it's not even a gap. It's not a chasm. It's a. I mean,
It's not on the same chart.
No, it's not on the same chart. So if we look just at, and I was stupid. I didn't get it in color. I'm gonna pass this around. On this one, on the top line, it's like we got from 1946 to 1980. This is black income, and you can see that went all the way up into about the 80s. We were doing all right, and then all of a sudden there was a shift down, which brings us to where we are right now. But then we can also see within white America, there's a slight upturn, and then there's a vertical leap. Vertical leap. Now, I should have got that in color.
That kind of shows the correlation. Like two things. The correlation is that on that chart, if you just want to put two things together, when we started doing bad, we start doing better. Mm-hmm. Is there a connection between that?
Yeah. I mean, this economy grows off of our suffering. So one of the things I have to always try to point out to my kids, I say, think about this. And a key piece that we need when we having the discussion about reparations is a true understanding we need to understand the difference between credit. We need to understand the difference between credit, income, and wealth. Black folks tend to rely on credit. We think credit means something. We think that income means something, but we all know that income stops if you get hurt or if you get old. Wealth is what you're supposed to build your life on. And that is what was stripped from us. Wealth was denied to us. Because check this out. And I did this model for my kids because I said, listen, it's one or two things we got to consider. If we look at the fact that right now, that if you take away all of the depreciable assets, if you take away the car, you take away the house, the average black family is worth $1,700. With that, we're about $17,000. But if you look at the average white family, just average, $170,000 in wealth. So I asked my kids, I said, so is it true with some of the stuff that people might be saying about us? Is it really true that we are lazy? Is it really true that we are lacking? Or is there something that we don't see that's manipulating things? Because let me make this point. I have been able to trace my family back about 6 generations. That means that my family has been here for 6 generations. Right? Now, I want you to think about this. 6 generations. My grandfather died, and I thought he was doing good. He was only able to leave me a few pieces of clothes and some ties. And basically almost died of pauper living with my mom. You know what I'm saying? Now, I mean, you've been to my grandparents' house when he was healthy. You know what I'm saying? Now, when he's dying, he's almost a pauper. He has to get rid of everything so that he could get benefits so that he can continue living. Now, think about this.
You got to give up all his assets so they count it as income.
Right. Donald Trump's grandfather came here from, I believe, Ireland. He was able to get into some type of business where he was able to leave his son money. His son capitalized that money into a real estate slight empire, giving it to his son, who ended up building up a real estate supposed empire and pushed that all the way into the White House in 3 generations. I could look at that and ask the question, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my family?
Right. And honestly, naturally, I think that subliminally, kids will do that.
Kids do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? 3 generations? You come over here, you do that? But, you know, we just went to great-grandma's 105th birthday and shit. What's going on? Because when we address the idea of reparations, what we do is we point out what is wrong with America. Not only because, of course, we all could have made better choices in some things, but in certain things that was laid out, and when we are able to look at those and know what they are, we are able to diagnose it.
But
like,
even with that, like even saying like us thinking like we could have made better choices, like they don't make the best choices either. But
not all.
They're still at an advantage.
Right, because they got enough wealth. There's enough wealth within their family line that they can make mistakes. Some of us done went to school with white boys who done did some heinous stuff.
And got a job. Man, listen, I was working at Gye-Nyame. I worked for Ohio, Franklin County, Ohio Casa downtown at the courthouse. There was a person there, felony, but they're working there. That's no lie. No lie. If you have a felony, you're not supposed to work government jobs, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, but you think about it like that, like you said, that's so true. We talk about the war on drugs and stuff, but you know how many people we probably run into that CEOs, all this, that are doing drugs compared to somebody that is, you know, maybe, let's say they still got a decent job, doing no drugs, but they can still never get that CEO job.
Never.
They will never get it.
Never.
Just because of the color of their skin, basically. They will not get that job.
Because you got to remember that America has been built up on our suffering. Always. See, because when you are able to say that and you are able to pull out the numbers and show that, because it's like, family, you can't tell me that every last one of us is retarded. Every last one of us moves slow. We don't think. Every last one of us made a million mistakes. You can't tell me that. I could trace my family back 6 generations, and all of them been broken.
And so now, if you was it Marcus who created he had the fleet of ships.
That was Marcus Garvey, UNIA.
Yeah, even if you think of like, I mean, they shut that down. But even if you think of just on a practical note of if he started a business where, you know, he's transporting people from point A to point B on the sea. Like if he was able to do that then up and and have that till now, it would be worth something. Mm-hmm. But the fact, like even on a simpler note, like I guess my point is what I'm saying is that even if you took out, they didn't believe in. America didn't believe in the reason he was doing it. I think it was more financial. Like you start letting them do something like that, they can build wealth on that, and then that puts them in the game with us.
Exactly.
They took it away.
Right.
Just simply because, for somebody to have an advantage, somebody has to have a disadvantage, and they're making sure that, they're using us as that. Because even when you think about race, and I'm gonna shut up after this. It almost feels like on the scale of race, it's like white people here, black people here, and they don't care where anybody else falls on that.
Exactly.
But as long as we here and they here, Gucci.
Because we are like the stepping stool for everybody to come over here. Think about it. I don't know how old, because is this your serve?
Yes.
I don't know how old you are, so I won't ask. But you might be old enough to remember when the corner stores were black.
Corner stores?
Yeah.
We're black?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I always went to the corner store. Black people.
Well, I didn't know. How old are you?
I'm 27, but I remember someone being
okay.
black.
Carl Brown.
Yeah.
That ain't a corner store. That was a grocery store. But I'm
wait, and then there was another one down the street.
That was
on
the
the
grocery store. Collies, all that. Don't put
Oh.
no market on the map.
On the corner of Greenway and Latta, I think it was.
I'm gonna blow your minds with this.
They took the building down now, but it was
That was Al's.
Al's,
And that's Taylor.
Yes.
Now, I remember when all of them were. I'm old enough to remember when all of them were. Now, how many black-owned stores are there?
I haven't seen
They shut down most of them that were. They're trying to shut them all down.
Well, and I didn't know. My mom was telling me, what is that American edition over there?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that used to be like owned by
Yeah.
Well,
And if something's black owned, sometimes it's not put out there because it's almost like we know that if we put a black face on it, then it'll be harder for us. You know what I'm saying?
But then also check this out. Talking about black neighborhoods, Mount Vernon was a popping black neighborhood.
Money earned in Mount Vernon.
Money under Mount Vernon. That not only in New York but here.
didn't it used to be here too in Wyoming?
Oh yeah. But they.
You said where? Why?
Right here in Wyoming.
But what they did is, if you look around all black neighborhoods, if you ever travel, look around where black people live, you're going to see expressway right through the middle of all of them. The thing that shut down Mount Vernon was the Highway Act. So they decided that they wanted interstate travel, and they created the highways, and every place that they put those highways through was a black neighborhood, a black town. So at one point in time on Mount Vernon, you get everything. You didn't even have to leave Mount Vernon unless you just wanted to go somewhere and you could get whatever you want. And there was black neighborhoods, and they cut their whole. And you go to Akron, it's the same. You go to Cleveland, it's the same. You go to Detroit, it's the same. You go anywhere where we was gathered, you see the same thing happening. Once again, wealth being built up off of us. Now, I'm gonna put this up. Go ahead.
My grandfather grew up in the Mount Vernon area, so it's around the blackberry patch. But during the Great Depression, that area didn't feel the same strain that the rest of Columbus did.
Because everybody the economy was
right there. It was right there.
And not only that, now, because I'm going to say this about that. I told this story on my show. I went to a school, and they was talking about the Great Depression. And one of the assignments was, because in high school I was in a mixed school. So go ahead and ask you, if you got grandparents in your life, go and ask them about the Great Depression. So I go home and ask my grandmother about the Great Depression. And she looked at me kind of puzzled. I said, well, you was like, Great Depression? I said, yeah, between the years, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I was alive then. She said, and she said this, I didn't know this. I said, how you didn't know this? You know, according to the history books, it was the worst thing ever.
Right, for real.
But if we really look at the lives that they were living, you couldn't go much lower. Right. She didn't know this. OJ, I didn't know this. I'm sorry, baby. If I would have known you was going to come ask me that question, I'd have paid a little bit more attention. But I didn't know this. And a lot of our people is like those things that majorly affected them really didn't affect us because we've been living it.
It's like stuff they commit suicide over.
2008, we had the recession, right? I didn't mean to cut you off, but 2008 we had the recession, and my cousin, she was a subcontractor. So what she would do is like she would allow people to hire her to come and like caregive for them, like a home health aide. Mm-hmm. So she went and she worked for this family, and they weren't white. I don't know exactly what they were, but they weren't white, but they were wealthy. And the man kept saying like, I don't know how they're making it, and because it was so bad for them that it was hitting them. You know what I'm saying? What y'all already at the bottom? You know what I'm saying? Is there a basement down there? Way. So that really that sounds the same way as that Great Depression. What we do is suggest and adapt. You know what I'm saying? Because how far up have we come that we failed so bad? You know what I'm saying? Y'all didn't let us get up there to feel what y'all feeling. So that's kind of the same thing. We immediately adapt to our circumstances.
So what I got here is the median wealth by education attainment for working householders under the age of 55.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, see, but this the point.
Hey, no, I don't know. Like, wait a minute.
This the point. And we got to start having these conversations because many of us are living illusions of credit and not of wealth. As one of my sisters told me on my radio show, she said it all comes out when they die. You know what I'm saying? Because you be like, I thought they was balling. Oh, they left the debt. You know what I'm saying? So now, here's a median wealth by education attainment for working householders under the age of 55. White, less than high school. Now, so this means they ain't graduated from high school.
I don't even want to hear the numbers.
All right. Well,
I'm mad at the bar.
check it out. $18,800 in wealth. White, at least some college, $79,600. Black, at least with some college, $11,100. Latino, now because we talking about immigrants, right? Latino, with some college, $20,500.
Almost double.
That's probably where most of my ancestors cut us off and they passed. Like literally, we couldn't until just recently. I found like most of my Jackson line, which is from my dad's side, because most of my family members, according to what my aunt said, cut you off. You looked black, or you married like she married someone they considered to be too dark, and she was like the family literally cut her off because they all passed and pretended to be white.
Blue Vein Society.
So, like for example, for those that might be asking, well, how do you tell? By every legitimate metric, this is a multi-trillion-dollar debt. It's a multi-trillion-dollar debt, which of course, just like they wait for us to make payments, we couldn't allow the United States government to make payments to us.
There was a
With
meme
interest, they do
there was a
interest
meme
too.
they said it said something like the U.S. is so many trillions in debt, and it's like, no, white Americans are so many trillions.
Where they got that from?
Right.
Not me.
That sum will not be paid out to black Americans at large, because what happens is we got people mixing in, and you know what I'm saying? So the issue would be, but would instead go specifically to the progeny of victims of American chattel slavery and the oppressions that follow, such as Jim Crow, using standards set out in the paper by Professor Darity and Professor Frank. The criteria for eligibility would be: 1, an individual would have to provide reasonable documentation of at least one ancestor enslaved in the United States, and this is where they would need to demonstrate that they have identified as black, African American, colored, or Negro on an established legal document for at least 10 years prior to the onset of the program.
The only people that did that BS was them. But go ahead.
No, did what?
Claimed other races.
Who?
So they can get benefit. White people, like the Native Americans.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But we all got people around us that will say, "I'm not black."
I'm not black. Yeah.
Come on now.
I agree. No,
Not black.
no, but out in my head, I'm like, no, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, so we got the identifier, but we have a wealth issue, and the wealth issue is only getting worse, because right now we have moved into an economy of inheritance. At one point in time, if our grandfathers or our great grandfathers was able to compete, they possibly could have had stacked up the wealth. But because we have been denied so long, we have to get reparations. Why? Because if not, the projections for the wealth for the black family by 2053 will be 0 or negative, which means that we will literally be back in a slave state. In order to make ends meet, because 1,700 already is so damn close. So damn close to 0. Because think about this: if you try to live, I can't live in 1 month
With that much.
with $1,700. You understand what I'm saying?
You spent half on rent already.
There you-
on rent already.
Well, actually, mine's a little bit more than half. I'm like,
You can spend more than half, and if you got kids,
oh, it's done. It's done.
definitely in there. How you about to pass for your car?
Because it's like, how you gonna eat?
You talking about you gotta pay for the lights? I gotta have gas. I gotta have water. Dang! Oh well, I guess
What
just
you
gonna
mean
drink
you
the bath
hungry?
water, right?
Some new diet plans coming up.
I'm a vegetarian.
You ain't even gonna have a fridge to put your food in anyway. It's like,
You gotta become a vegetarian.
So,
But I will say, like when I think about just black people in general, I had this professor, I can't remember his name, but he was African American Studies class, and he said, he asked a question. He said, do you think if roles was reversed, do you think black people would have enslaved white people the way that they did us? And he's like, just think about it. And I will tell you, majority of the class said no.
No, we know.
And when I think about it is, and I do wonder if this is inherent in us as a people, or we just grow to be this way. But I do think that we're people that are inviting and welcoming to a fault.
I'll give you this. We share a soul space with them. Soul, solar, light. Anything that's touched by the light, what happens to it? We call it dark, but no, it's actually light skin, right?
Right.
Darkness. If you're in the darker cave, you come out looking like this.
Right.
Dark skin. So the light that's within us, we can't help but be that.
Right. Even saying that, because I think about some of the comments you made, it was like inviting. It's like, like kind of togetherness. Like we want people to come together. And, keep it real, I was like that for a long time, but then just like, just white people, black people come together and we'll be fine. And as I live life, I grow closer to believing that they're not going to help us to do what it takes to get to where we need to be, or we have to be, because there's been plenty of opportunities for white people to stand up as a people and support us in a way that would lend to doing that, and it doesn't happen. Like, and I'm gonna shut up, but like when you think of Black Lives Matter, and then you hear people say, white people say all lives matter. Cool, but when black people get shot, where are all lives matter? Where are these people that believe all lives matter? And I kind of reflect to something that was powerful to me. What was it? The Birmingham letter that Martin Luther King wrote in jail, and he basically said that all the white allies,
moderates,
basically told him it wasn't the right time for him to do what he did, and he wrote the letter basically saying, pretty much you're white, so you won't feel the same urgency that we have, and that's where I'm at. White people will never see the urgency that we have to basically take us out of this oppression, to get us to a better place, to put us on even playing field.
See, now I'm against the whole even playing field thing, because actually, with reparations, what we should be striving for is to be put in a
situation where
it's not even.
Okay.
See, because this issue, it's only we only 14% of the country. We should be put in a place of affluence. See, because we talking about between 10 trillion. You know what I'm saying? And that's not all money, because
also, that number's bigger, but go ahead.
I mean, but
that 14%.
we gon' I mean, you know what I'm saying? But the PC is certain protection and certain things that we need to be striving for or asking for, not even demanding. It ain't even asking, because with a debt, you don't ask, you demand the debt. And you have that conversation, even if the person is not going to give it, even if the person is not going to pay you need to let them know, you owe me. I know you owe me. Huh?
You still, right. Like, it's like, just because you say you don't have the money and you don't, and I can see your bank accounts, I still want my money.
I want my money.
And also, to keep your voice heard even when they're feeling uncomfortable.
Oh, man.
If you think about it, that's the biggest thing that they don't like to happen, is feeling uncomfortable.
Right. Or they get violent.
Yeah, and it's funny because, and that's one thing I will say I stopped doing, because I'll give you an instance of a conversation I would have with my coworkers. Like, I remember I bought some Chick-fil-A and I came in, sat down, was eating. I was like, hey, you want some? I can't remember what I had from there. I asked them what they want. I was like, oh no, we don't need a Chick-fil-A. And I was like, oh, because of the LGBTQ stuff. They was like, yeah, I just, I can't eat there. And I was like,
Gobble, gobble.
I was like, right. I said, I was like, dang, if I felt that way, about how a lot of these companies act and treat black people, I couldn't eat anywhere. So listen, it was like deja vu, happened again, another time. And I can't remember what it was, but I offered it was just a sauce from it. And they said the same thing again. They didn't make, when I said that comment, they never commented after that. They was just quiet. Said it again. And then they was like, yeah, I guess you're right. but that to me shows, because one of those coworkers I consider a friend. Mm-hmm. We hang out and kick it and all that stuff. But even though I'm that person's friend, that social thing is not as important as that other social thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of how cool me and him gets, he's not going to have that urgency for something that affects me to that degree, like I would expect him to have. So,
I mean, I think even like on the points you were saying, like of how we are just so like open and like welcoming. I think a lot of that, like even if you look back like in the biblical time, yes, they really try to say a lot of those people in there were white. They try to convince us that a lot of those people were, but we all know if you really read into it, you look at the details, a lot of them weren't white. They were people of colored skin. And if you look at it, a lot of them, even then you see some parts of basically slavery. And again, a lot of that started to come from people who actually were white. And so they had a different mindset. The culture was different. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from, where our culture growing up, and of course culture, it starts to carry on down generations. We were welcoming. We were welcoming. We all wanted to be able to live a good life. And white people, those people, whoever what you want to look at it, were trying to see how can we take an advantage of what we have here. How can we take an advantage of what they got and make it ours?
You know what's funny? I remember as a kid, when I talked to you, that's when I was like coming to like, why would people do this to people? Like, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, son, you can't look at it like, he's like, you gave me a different way of looking at it. And it's not to say that it's right or wrong, but it was just, they're trying to keep their people on top. And you didn't say it this way, but that's kind of how my brain took it. But it was like, we're just a what is it, like not a sacrificial lamb, but we're going to get, by keeping them, to keep themselves on top, basically, we're the ones that's going to be the ones that's on the bottom. Because it's to keep them, they're looking at how can for generations, can I keep people that look like me here? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
I mean, wouldn't that be any of our goals? I mean, would you, if you walked out this room and you stumbled across the idea and you developed a massive business and you were sitting at the top of this business and you employing thousands and you got your son who is kind of capable and you got this stranger boy who might not even look like you. You know what I'm saying? Who you going to want to pass the company to? Who you going to want to pass the wealth to? You going to pass it to your son or you going to pass it to the stranger boy? Hey. You see what I'm saying?
Tell my son, get your stuff together.
You see what I'm saying? So we got to understand.
So yeah, that's one part, but then they take it a step further. It's like, so I can see that, but then it's like, but I also think this is like tactics to get people on board with stuff. So I guess what I mean is like, say that's the case, but you may never even cross your mind like stranger boy is white, so I definitely don't want a white person in here. Yeah. So, but you may. But I think that's the step further they go. Is like, can't have this black skinned person.
No, I can't have this human.
See, I disagree with you.
Okay.
All right, check it out. ABC. What is it? Alphabet Company. Mm-hmm. Founded by a white person. Yep. CEO. Brown-skinned Indian. Mm-hmm. Somebody pass it to him. Where you get it from? He didn't start Alphabet. Go to whole Silicon Valley right now. A lot of the major millionaires right now are brown skinned.
Yeah, that's
tech
is like
the
big.
Because the key piece I wanted to get to you is that we often only think of whiteness as skin color.
It's buying into the
whiteness is deeper. It's much deeper than that.
It's actually a legal terminology. Hence, we got the black codes and whatnot. But we look at India. The caste system. That's the first seeds of this thing we call racism.
So yeah, I agree with that because a lot of times like when you hear people say it's the American way, America, is whiteness. You know what I'm saying? So you can say whiteness or you can say American. And so when people you hear people if somebody's black, and for lack of better words, thinking black. If somebody thinks black, then they're against America. The issue with us, and I was going to share this earlier, because one of the things I looked up on is just different culture, different people coming to America. So the Japanese and things like that, none of them were considered citizens. They would let them buy land and all that stuff, and then say you're not a citizen. But what would happen is they would have to give up their culture to be a part of American culture. And obviously, it's easier for certain groups of people to assimilate because of the physical aspects. And like you said, it is a mind state, but it's kind of like when the rules change. You can think like us, but then now we're going to use that you don't look like us and everything. So I think it kind of.
Explain, think black.
So I said for lack of better term. So my thing is give an instance, and this is just what I feel. I feel like black people in America, I think we have a certain sense of collectivism. We may let that go for American thought process. And so to me, hence why I say we're inviting. If a white person, we go outside and if a white person can do the Dougie, then he's in now. You know what I'm saying? He's in. The cop.
Eminem?
The cop.
Right.
Dancing cop. He's in now, even though he's supposed to be biracial. But also, like you said, do you identify? That's that. But anyway, so when I say think black, I do personally feel, from my experience, that we have a certain way of thinking, and that could be attributed to a lot of us experiencing hardships and things like that, so we think a certain way. But when you start, I don't know, I hope I answered your question. I don't want to keep talking. Did I answer?
No.
But my key point to me,
got a white mouth.
to me, the key point is being in America preaches individualism, and I think that when you look at certain cultures, from what I've seen,
About 2/3 of the world is a collective culture.
Hispanics living together until they improve a certain amount of money, get a person a house, and do the same thing there, and move on.
Yeah, 1/3 of the world is about the individual.
So it may not just be
2/3 of the world, most
our
of the
ancestry
global
that's
south.
like that. It could
It's
just
about
be
the collective or the community.
Right. So yeah, but if you don't think like how America wants you to think, then it's un-American. If you question that. And so I think that's where a lot of black people struggle because, and like I said, I don't know if it's inherently in us or whatever, but I just think putting a heart behind things a lot of times.
I think that's the humanitarian part of us. If I go over to a village in Africa and I'm a stranger and it's dinner time and I don't have any place to eat, somebody's going to provide me with food to eat.
Right.
There's nobody that's going to be going around starving like that.
Now in America, that may happen. May.
If you're in the right place. Some places you're going to get arrested.
But I guess that's what I mean. I don't want to.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got information that talks about a black agenda, and like I said, I just wanted to share the information because I used to be on the fence about reparations, and at some point I'd be like, it's a good idea, but we'll never get it. But then once again, like I said, if we don't ever start talking about it, you know what I'm saying? Because I honestly believe that until America does right by us, they don't have the right to do right by anybody else. Right. Don't talk to me about universal health care. Don't talk to me about universal pay. Don't talk to me about universal anything until you take care and fix what you broke. Because I want y'all to think about the craziness of this. I take $5 from him, from your son, and I give it to him. And I tell your son, all right, cool. I'm gonna make it even. So he had your $5 for a little while, so $5 really don't matter. I'm gonna balance out the scale, and I'm gonna make sure everybody's straight. So I'm gonna give you $1, and I'm gonna give you $1.
Still got an advantage. Still got that 5.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm still $5 short.
Right? Yeah, right. It's just like, yo, well, you know what I'm saying? But what we supposed to be is like, yeah. See, okay, because when they talk about all this universal stuff, they're talking about taking care of everybody else before they pay the debt to us. And we have to at least have enough voice and enough heart and enough information. But like, whoa, wait. I know other people get sick. But before you talk about universal health care, can you talk about fixing what you owe us? Because y'all going to put trillions of dollars into making sure everybody got health care. Why not make sure that you fix us? Because what a lot of people don't understand is that when black folks rise, everybody else rise. We are when they say rising tide lift all boats, black folks are the tide. Because you give us some money, you already know. We hooking everybody up.
Right, that's true.
We'll stimulate the economy. We're going to internationally travel. We're going to buy some of the, and we're going to take care of everybody. Give us enough money for health care. You sick, you already know that we already donate. You know what I'm saying? Take care of us. We take care of America. But they want to give money to everybody. And I want y'all to think about this. Free college. Or even erasing college debt. When the majority of us didn't even go to college. That won't even benefit us. As a matter of fact, that'll give your competition, if y'all went to college, that'll give your competition a head start. Because now he come from a family that might have had wealth that was able to take out a loan and slowly paying that loan back. You still struggling with yours. I release both of y'all from the debt. He already got wealth. You don't got no wealth. So now instead of being at negative, use it at zero. He went up.
Yeah, he done rose up.
So just when they start coming at us with this universal stuff, as far as presidencies and or elected officials, they start talking to us, we got to be very clear and understand that we have to put our interests first. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but they try to teach us that it is, and that's why they use terms like colors. People of color.
Oh,
it takes
run from
out
that.
of it.
Run from that.
Yeah.
See, because what they do is they dilute you. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to tie
everybody else's as opposed to that.
Right. Because think about this. Because I want you to think about this. If your people went through slavery, Jim Crow, prison to pipeline, and then somebody else come in 1985. Your family done suffered all this. Now all of a sudden, because they look like you, they are supposed to be in the same orbit with you. They're supposed to get what you supposed to. Hell no. That's like you coming to the game, right? And somebody come behind you, and because I know them, here, you can have this property, you got that. No. You got the people of color. For me, let me just say for me, it's ADOS.
No, I agree, because I've been in circles where people use that term, and I'll be looking like, wait a minute.
People of color is not white. That's what that means. It's not white.
I don't feel like y'all get what I've experienced in my life and what my ancestors have experienced.
Not at all.
And honestly, words are very important when it comes to things like this. It's kind of like, and I think you were going to talk to me about what we've experienced and, our people experienced going through slavery. It was a Holocaust. But they don't call it that. It's intentional, though. Because to call it that, because what people always say, well, the Jews had it worse. Yeah, I guess.
Nobody ever said it to you, did they?
People say it all the time. That's the other thing. What about the Jews? Or they say, what about the Jews? What about the Irish? The Irish were down too, and they make a way out. But they always have to have something to use to negate.
To negate what you,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
But
Devalue your story.
Right. And it's just,
but the main difference that you use? They chose to come here. They didn't choose to come to America because they knew they would get oppressed when they came to America. Most of your ancestors, my ancestors didn't even have a choice.
And they get benefits. The woman I was talking about that had the felony, she's Jewish. Her dad's Jewish. And that's how she got there, because he's high up somewhere. Right.
Not only that, go and check out the Homestead Act. I mean, there's a book called When Affirmative Action Was White. And you look at, matter of fact, you could go on YouTube, look up Martin Luther King, We're Coming to Get Our Check. Because in there, he lays out all of the things that I'm talking about and all of the benefits that different white immigrants and different immigrants have been getting when they come to America. But then when it comes to you, it's like, no, we got to make sure everybody gets some. But I bet
All lives matter.
Right. I would pray that you would make sure that your baby eats before any other baby. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna feed other babies, but I got to make sure this one right here. And that's how we got to be. Because for so long we have been like, come on, eat with us. You know, boom, I'm gonna eat after you. Go on, just eat. No, because y'all ain't playing with us like that. Ain't nobody playing with us like that.
Right.
So I ain't gonna talk y'all here. What's in questions, comments, or anything y'all want to share before we get up?
You always have really interesting information. Like I always leave, and then it's like I think about it, and things happen, and like I said again with court and stuff like with them, I'm sitting here like, yeah, I remember.
Can I have the paper?
Here go. This one is what's called one of the black agendas. There's many black agendas out there. I just want to get y'all to check it out if you get an opportunity and look at some of it, because when you talk about reparations, we got to be clear that it's bigger than just receiving money, because we already know that we just get money, they just gonna find a way to take it back. So we got to have certain protections of the law that we didn't have before, so we can make sure that when we get those checks or we get the benefits, that nobody could take advantage of that.
And I think that's my key thing. I wouldn't say that I'm on the fence at all, but my whole thing is thinking about how they're going to use ways to get it back. You know what I'm saying? Like, immediately, this fine, that fine. Well, if you in this tax bracket, then this, and this, So that's my whole thing is, like, to be strategic in, that thought process.
No. I'm sorry, my son got out of school early. I'm not used to it.
How old is he?
He 8. And he's in ACES. He's in ACES.
Oh, wait. I don't know why I was sitting here like I didn't know your
That's
son.
what Kanan was talking about yesterday. It was like,
Oh, he was talking about Andrew. I didn't know he was talking about Andrew.
How old are y'all? How old are those babies?
He's 10 months.
Sauce a bit sweet.
See, look, that's how. If you don't mind, the sweet sauce is good. I like
At
it.
6 months.
Yeah, about to be
But
7
you know what? You
tomorrow.
had cheese, so you ain't have toppings.
That's
So
the crazy part.
it probably
10,
seemed.
11, and 7.
Man.
I'm sorry, I just walked in. Were y'all rapping the hoop?
Yeah.
You ain't chased the woman away, did you?
Yeah, you did.
You chased
Now
the woman
the
away?
debate.
I said, get out if you.
You gave her some food. Said this is what we do.
I said, have you seen Get Out?
You
It's
said
the black
you seen
version.
that
No,
movie.
just like-
You seen that movie, now we're doing it in reverse.
Right. Right. Y'all turn.
Switch roles.